as GD employs them to convey messages to man to protect him or execute retribution on GD's behalf, are clearly defined as servants of the Lord whose function it is to assure the well-being of man. It is similar to the sheep being more important than the shepherd, since the latter owes his existence or vocation to the existence of the former. This line of reasoning has its limitations, as it would reduce the value of the teacher vis-a-vis the student and that of the prophet vis-a-vis the nation. Clearly, then the subordinate position of the shepherd stems from his allotted task. The same applies to the position of the teacher or prophet. From the point of view of personal characteristics, the shepherd, being a human being, clearly possesses superior faculties to those of the sheep entrusted to his care. Similarly, the teacher possesses faculties superior to those of his students, and the prophet possesses faculties not shared by the other members of his nation. Angels do possess faculties which man is not privy to, and in that respect they are superior to man. On the other hand, all statements denigrating the worth of man refer only to his inferior physical shell, not to his comprehensive potential. We must also never lose sight of the fact that the entire universe was created primarily for the greater glory of GD, and in this respect, the angels, of course, possess tremendous worth, quite independent of their function in connection with man. Bereshit Rabbah 8 tells that the Torah was created 2,000 years prior to the universe. This means that until Abraham began to observe Torah laws, only a few people had walked with GD, hence the real world did not start until then, approximate 2,000 years after Adam was created. The years preceding the birth of Abraham are called Tohu, empty. Sanhedrin 97. Similarly, the statement of Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish concerning Psalms 139,5 "You have created me first and last" means that I was first in your planning, but last in execution. As the stage was prepared for man during the creation of the universe, so the history of mankind up until the time the Torah was given at Mount Sinai is the setting of the stage for a world in which Torah can reign supreme. Rabbi Levi is quoted in Leviticus Rabbah 20 as saying, "If the heel of man outshines the sun, will not his face outshine it even more?" This means that if the reward man receives as a result, ikef, heel, of using his free will for constructive purposes elevates him to a status exceeding that of the planets, which are performing GD's will in an involuntary manner, this is proof that man himself, i.e. his face, the seat of his faculties, outranks the planets. An artist who fashions two plates, one for himself, the other for an outsider, will surely take greater pains with the plate he intends for himself. Similarly, GD, man who is to serve him, was fashioned with more care than the sun, which is merely to serve man and GD's other creatures. Planets do not require intelligence to carry out their functions. The duties of man, however, are such that he requires intelligence as well as other faculties to carry them out, something the planets are not equipped with. Problems in the text of this chapter. 1. Why does it state in chapter 2,4 when they were being created, if one ignores the Midrash on this? 2. What do the Toldat Hashemayim, descendants of heaven, mentioned in that verse refer to? If it is a reference to the whole 6-day cycle of creation, then the words "on the day GD made them" is contradictory. If these words are connected with what follows, however, i.e. the state of vegetation prior to rainfall, i.e. that all vegetation is the direct result of rainfall, then the letter Vav at the beginning of verse 5 does not make sense. 3. At any rate, why does the Torah report what went on before there had been any rain? Why was there a need for rain as long as man for whose sake the rain was needed had not yet been created? 4. If it did not rain because there was not yet anyone who needed the rain, i.e. man did not need to till the earth, why bother with the mist that rose from the ground? This all the more so since rain is the result of vapors that rise from the ground. 5. The customary use of the word terem suggests that something has been omitted, namely whatever went on before terem. Examples are Genesis 19:4, before they could lie down, the men of Sodom had already arrived, or Genesis 24:15, before he had finished talking, Rebekah arrived. What is the meaning of the word in our verse? 6. The normal syntax would have required a sentence such as before there was rainfall no grass could grow on earth. Why does the Torah employ such a cumbersome syntax? 1. The entire story begun here extends until the second report of the creation of man and his placement in Gan Eden. In this way, man is indeed the consequence of, i.e. the descendant of, heaven and earth. The Torah thus justifies the creation of vegetation though in suspended animation by the eventual appearance of man on the scene. This also explains why the word earth is mentioned at the end of the verse before the word heaven. Earth is mentioned first since it was to serve as the center of man's activities, his home base, so to speak. The whole paragraph then is introduced by the statement these were the results of heaven and earth, which GD had planned for since the day he first created earth and heaven. Although vegetation did indeed exist, it did not function normally until the descendants, i.e. man was around to benefit therefrom. For why would GD cause rain to fall as long as there was as yet no man to toil the earth? 2. The Torah then makes the point that man is a creature, combining all four basic elements in his composition. On the one hand this makes him mortal, since such combinations cannot endure forever. On the other hand he has been endowed with the essence of immortality via his soul. The mist which rose from the earth served to combine fire, water, and wind when it settles on the earth. Thus it combines with the fourth basic element, earth. When man was formed, this fusion with earth from which he had been formed had already been achieved. The personal involvement of GD expressed by "let us make man" is what imbued man with the potential of everlasting life. Our sages have interpreted the use of the letter Yud twice in the word Vayitzer, he fashioned, as referring to two creations of man, the finite, mortal, and the potentially infinite, immortal. From this point onwards, the Torah deals with the purpose of creation. 3-6, because of the centrality of man in GD's plans. All the means necessary to achieve the end have been listed prior to the main event of creation, that of the making of Adam. The remarks of the Midrash quoted at the outset do not refer to what is permissible to investigate and what is not. Proof of that is that hiding and examining are not opposites. Only hiding and revealing would be opposites. The sages also say that details of what went on in the Garden of Eden, such as the nature of the tree of knowledge, will never be revealed. If so, then the element of hidden continues to exist beyond the point of the story chosen by the Midrash as the watershed in the story of creation. It is our view then that the meaning of the Midrash is thus: until we read about the creation of man, the whole story of creation remains a mystery from the point of view of its purpose. Only when we hear about the creation of man, can we begin to unravel the purpose for which GD had made all the preceding efforts. From this point on, and with the additions provided, the researcher can penetrate into GD's motivation right from the onset of the story. Gate 6. Chapter 1. He blew in his nostrils a living soul. The Talmud Birukot 10 quotes a line from the famous chapter of Ishet Ayil, the woman of valor, from Proverbs chapter 31. It says there, she opened her mouth with wisdom, and the Torah of loving kindness was on her tongue. Is there then a Torah that is not loving kindness? This refers to Solomon's father David, who dwelled in 5 worlds and recited Shira, hymns of praise. He dwelled in the womb of his mother and said Shira, since it is written in Psalms 103,1, My soul, bless the Lord, and all my insides proclaim his holiness. When he saw the light of the world, the stars etc., he proclaimed a hymn of praise, saying, Blessed be the Lord, and all his hosts. When he suckled at his mother's breast, he composed a hymn saying, May my soul bless the Lord and not forget to thank him for all his kindness, Psalms 103,2. He referred to the placing of the teats near the source of Bina, understanding the heart. Rabbi Abayo says this means that a woman's teats are not near the genitals, like those of the animals, and that therefore there is no need to look at the genitals when being nursed. Rabbi Yehuda says that the meaning is that the teats are not near the source of human excrement. When David saw the downfall of the wicked, he said Shira, as we read, May all sinners perish from the earth, Psalms 104:35. When he beheld the day of death, he said Shira, as it says, May my soul bless the Lord, you are very great, Psalms 104,1. Lack of motivation results ultimately in inertia. When David illegally ordered the Jewish people counted, and Yoav could see no reason for it, he carried carelessly, failing to count the tribes of Levi and Benjamin, Samuel 2:24 and Chronicles 121. Even the tribes he did count, were not reliably tabulated. Had the people known that the war by Saul against Amalek did not have plunder as its objective but had been waged purely at the command of Gd, the tragedy of Saul would have been averted, Samuel I chapter 15. If we observe the larger planets move very slowly, this may be because they are not aware of their destination and ultimate objective. Philosophers are agreed that the greater one's intelligence, the better one appreciates the distance between one's own intelligence and that of one's creator. The less intelligent deem themselves close to Gd, whereas the most intelligent beings realize the tremendous gulf between their own intelligence and that of Gd. This is why when angels praise the Lord, they are said to refer to him in the third person, i.e. blessed be the glory of his majesty, whereas we humans address Gd in the second person, i.e. blessed are you. The ultimate objective of our knowledge is to know the limit imposed upon our knowledge and understanding. Moses was told, Exodus 33:20, You cannot see my face. If one presupposes that heavenly bodies are equipped with intelligence, then the large ones which are presumably equipped with the highest intelligence because of their awareness of the limits of their intellects lose motivation and revolve slowly. On the other hand, those stars and lesser intellects which are under the illusion that theirs is a great mind keep racing around the universe in order to achieve what they believe to be their purpose. Since only clear awareness of one's purpose results in the motivation of that particular creature to attain its destiny, the purpose of man's creation needs to be clearly demonstrated. Even the best of men, such as Job, when in doubt about the purpose of his life, will either negate life when it becomes too frustrating, or live a life of sin and self-indulgence. As long as survival of the soul after the death of the body is not certain, the motivation to act in a certain way in this life is quite weak. As believing Jews, we have no problem believing in resurrection of the body and survival of the soul, since the Torah is full of threats of the opposite happening as penalty for transgression of numerous commandments. If the hereafter does not exist, and there is an end to existence when the body dies, none of these warnings would have the slightest value as a deterrent to sin. In fact, if physical death were final, it is hard to understand why Gd bothered to create life, since he would then have decreed in advance that his handiwork would not endure. The Talmud would be quite right in assessing it is easier for man had he never seen the light of day, Eruvin 13. The souls would have been far better off had they remained in the celestial regions, since fusion with the body would condemn them to death and destruction. If one assumes that all souls originate from either one of two pools, i.e. 1, the pool containing the Gentile souls, and 2, the pool containing the ones intended for Jews, this would mean that the former never have a chance to find a body that could preserve their purity. If, on the other hand, all souls come from a single pool, then how can pure souls be condemned to inhabit bodies that will drag them to death and disintegration? Similarly, the question of souls forced to inhabit female bodies instead of male bodies, etc. Also, even assuming that the Jews get all their souls from the same pool, a major act of discrimination against the Gentiles, why are some souls forced into females, i.e. the weaker of the species, making it vastly more difficult to achieve the perfection they need to attain to ensure their eventual immortality? Why else are women absolved from the performance of some commandments if not for considerations of this nature? These are but a few of the problems that trouble theologians and philosophers concerning the term neshama, soul. The subject is swept under the rug for fear that it would produce mass desertions from organized religion. Job expressed his intellectual anguish about this in the words, "I am at an end, I do not know my soul, I despise my life," Job 9:21. Silence on the subject only deepens doubts and frustration. Discussion is apt to lead others astray who had never been alert to the fact that a problem existed, due to the shallowness of their thinking. Uttering doubts to oneself only may be a means to find solutions without having a negative impact on others. David, who had wanted to know the date of his death, wanted to find out if his task on earth could be completed in the time span allotted to him. He who lives one day at a time, not knowing how much time he has to complete a project, surely must be in constant terror lest all his work be in vain. The author concludes that nefesh, soul at birth, though superior as a life-motivating force to all other living creatures, just as the human body is superior to all other living creatures, is something quite primitive. Through the life experience it develops into the kind of force that matures. Free will is part of the force that helps this life force mature and become the kind of disembodied spirit that survives the flesh at the time the body dies. Nefesh, ruach, neshama are the way stations in the progress of this life-motivating force of man towards the formation of the disembodied immortal personality. Ruach HaKodesh, Holy Spirit, is not yet the level at which Neviah, prophetic insights, can be achieved. That stage is reached only by the neshama stage in a person's development. If actual Nevuah is denied such people, it is only because their contemporaries do not deserve to be the beneficiaries